I'm coming from Myrtle Beach on vacation this week. And of course, I have to talk about the Helsinki summit and the whole Trump-Putin thing and Trump's comments both ways. And of course, this was not one of Trump's best moments. Come out saying, one thing and then the next day, oh no, I changed one word. Okay, that doesn't pass. And this is Donald Trump. He's very impulsive. Somebody once said has the impulse control of a grease fire. And that's just the way he is. Nobody's been able to control him, and that's the way he's going to be. And so, his strong base did not punish him for this that much. I mean, the media did, and even some Republicans and all. But it was like 42% of people still approve of the way he's handling relations with Russia, within a 40 to 44% range over recent months. So no big change there. Now, among registered voters, it's a little different. 55% disapprove and 37% approve. So not quite that 42%, but still, a lot of people are questioning whether Trump's finally gone too far and stuff. I don't think, that's the big issue here. This is a short-term event. And yeah, down the road, Trump could shoot himself in the foot because, if you have no impulse control as a politician, you can destroy yourself. And that's a possibility down the road. But of course, I still think the bigger issue is the economy. The economy has been better with his tax cuts and stuff, and just the confidence of businesses and people knowing he's going to be very pro-business. I mean, it has been better. I don't think that's going to last. I don't think it's sustainable. I've said that in many issues here. But it has been better. And if we get to 2020, when he's up for re-election and the economy's this good or better, I don't see much to run against him. And yes, he could get reelected if he doesn't just totally do something crazy, which is also still a possibility. But I think the most important thing is to step back and take a bigger view of all this. I mean, we went out of our way to say, look, this is not just a short-term populist revolution or revolt. This is a major backlash against globalization. This happened between World War I and World War II, and especially in the Great Depression. Trade tariffs went up like crazy in the Great Depression and made it worse, and this could too. But we're also at a point, especially since World War II, where the U.S. has been the nice guy in the world and been the benefactor for the world. We've policed the world and provided defense for everybody and kind of safety for everybody at our expense. We've been overly nice on trade agreements and let other countries take advantage of us, sometimes for real reasons and sometimes for not. I mean, China is really the country that has, let's call it, cheated the most. There's no question about it. The Germans are just, Northern Europeans are just damn good luxury car makers. And a lot of Asian countries are just really good at making low-cost goods that we can't with lower wages. But China does more than that. So, I mean, this is a time to confront unfair trade agreements. It is a time to deal with illegal immigration, which we've been so lax on for decades now. But it is not a time to tell immigrants they're not welcome and they're all criminals and stuff. That is not a good policy, period. Tightening them up on illegals, yes. But don't tell the legals and the illegals that could become legals, we don't want you here. We are going to solely, and mark my words on this, solely regret cramping down so much and discouraging immigration at a time when demographics are terrible for almost all the developed world. And countries like Canada and Australia and Singapore are attracting immigrants and attracting better immigrants. So again, this whole thing about Trump, look, I agree with a number of his policies. I don't agree with others. But I tell you one thing, he is the beginning of a disruption. And even if he's doing it without much diplomacy, which he is, it's still, to me, part of the bigger picture and something that needs to happen. And he may or may not survive this term. I would bet he wouldn't, because I do not think the economy will hold up until 2020. If we're not in a deep downturn by sometime in 2020, then I'm going to have to reconsider everything about our forecasting. Yes, government stimulus can work and work and work, but it can't work forever because it is something for nothing. So I don't think the economy will hold up that long. I think the latest it holds up is into next year, and then it starts to crash in late 2019, 2020, right on the 90-year cycle, and that's a big cycle. For the economy from 1929 to 32. But this is the beginning of something. And Zero Hour, the latest book, the original title was Trump, Brexit, and the Next Civil War. Well, that ended up changing with the publisher. They didn't want to date the book and stuff. But I really think that was a better title, because it was more like what's happening and more nail in the head. Brexit, UK breaking away from the EU and stuff, in the Eurozone. I mean, that was a big deal. That was the first shot across the bow. And then Trump coming in and saying, look, trade agreements are not fair and all this stuff, and we have to have better immigration, but all this sort of stuff. This is real stuff, and this backlash against globalization. And believe me, I am pro globalization. I am pro urbanization. I'm pro globalization. I'm pro capitalism. I'm pro democracy. All these things build a more productive world, and this is how we've gotten so rich since the last 250-year cycle hit in the late 1700s. And again, free market capitalism, industrial revolution met democracy, and those two opposites have created the greatest dynamics in history for raising our standard of living. And it's just gone up so dramatically you can't even compare life back then, or even back to the beginning of the last century, the early 1900s, when we've gone up 8, now maybe 9 times standard of living, adjusted for inflation. But all things have cycles, and globalization has succeeded so much. This is the second wave, not the first wave, the second big wave and the largest of globalization since World War II. And it's gone so far, so fast, that people are uncomfortable. Too much cultural clash around the world, too much internet and too much cultural clash within countries, now that we have such knowledge and can see the differences. And we are going to have to reorganize the world around more compatible cultures and regions and stuff. And there's going to have to be a lot of political change and a lot of readjustments and things like trade agreements and immigration and things we're dealing with now. And I think there's a better way to do this. But this is part of the process. And this is not going to happen overnight. We are warning people that what we have in the next maybe 3 to 5 years is a major debt deleveraging and financial crisis that we didn't go through in 2008 and 9 like we should have, and we're going to have to go through it, or we're going to be doomed for a flatline economy like Japan forever. They've already proven that's the consequence. You don't deal with your debt, you don't deleverage and let bad businesses and zombie banks fail, you end up in a flatline economy forever, and then you eventually die in an aging society. And you even increase the tendencies towards lower births and stuff with such a flatline economy for young people and stuff. So this is the beginning of something. And again, the issue of whether Trump survives or not, I would bet not, because of the economy, more than his lack of diplomacy and impulse control. That could get him as well. But again, the media may be jumping up and down, but his supporters are not deserting him on this from the polls I see recently, and we'll see how that plays out. But see this bigger picture. This is a necessary revolution politically and socially, a 250-year cycle. This is a necessary populist revolution and backlash like we saw in the early 1930s. And it's all going to hit in the next several years. And this backlash against globalization and this populist revolution is going to last longer than the financial crisis. That could be cleaned up like 1929 to 32 largely in 3 years with a lot of reforms to follow. But again, the worst was over in 3 years and we did nothing but boom after that. So that's the better, bigger picture to have here. There's things I don't like about Trump and there's things I like about Trump, but I see him as part of this process happening, and it's necessary You have to, the whole system has to break down. However it breaks down, from failure or somebody like Trump coming in with a wrecking ball, or countries starting to succeed from trading agreements and unions like the European Union, and countries breaking up into two, like could happen in many countries, including ours. This is part of the process. We just want to warn you so you see it coming, and you can plan in advance and be ahead of the curve here. Again, this is not just a financial crisis coming, which is the next big challenge. There's going to be huge political and social changes and reforms, and it's good to be on the right side of that, and even be planning maybe where you live. I'm kind of happy sitting in Puerto Rico right now, seeing how it shakes out in the United States. And people really should consider, hey, if I'm a blue person, am I in a blue place, or could I be in a blue place? If I'm a red person, am I in a red place, or could I be better red place and still be near my family or whatever, or business? This is going to be, I think, a bigger and bigger issue. So again, this is a big thing happening, and everybody, I think, is understating what is occurring here, and it is in process. Trump, Brexit, and many more things are all a part of this. It is going to be messy. Revolutions, breakdowns are never easy. They're messy. So we're just warning you in advance, and we will keep you updated to the changes we see.